Aaliya was just an ordinary young woman searching for love, until she met Zayan, a man so charming and mysterious that no one suspected he was something far more dangerous. What started as a fairy tale romance soon twisted into a nightmare, revealing that Zayan was not human at all, but a Jinn, a supernatural being capable of destruction and deceit. This is the story of how Aaliya's quest for love led her into a battle against an invisible enemy, where nothing was as it seemed, and survival meant confronting the darkest secrets of the unseen world. Aaliya Noor was a young woman full of hope and dreams, living in a quiet town surrounded by hills and ancient trees. She had always believed in the idea of true love, the kind that comes out of fairy tales, unexpected and magical. Aaliya spent her days working at a small bookstore, where she often lost herself in stories of distant lands and heroic princes. Though she had met many people, none had ever stirred her heart the way she longed for. Her life was simple and predictable, but she carried a secret wish for something extraordinary to happen. One evening, the town hosted its annual spring festival, a colourful event where lanterns lit up the sky and music filled the air. People from nearby villages gathered to celebrate with food, laughter, and dances. Aaliya decided to attend, hoping for a break from her routine. As she wandered through the crowded streets, her eyes caught a figure standing alone near an old fountain. He was tall, with dark hair that shimmered under the lantern light, and eyes so deep they seemed to hold hidden worlds. The man was unlike anyone she had ever seen before. His presence was both calming and mysterious. Curiosity pulled her closer, and she found herself drawn to him without understanding why. The man introduced himself as Zayan Farid, his voice soft yet confident. There was something almost hypnotic in the way he spoke, and Aaliya felt an immediate connection. Despite the noise of the festival around them, the world seemed to quiet down when they were together. Zayan had a graceful manner, moving with ease and a quiet strength that made him seem both familiar and otherworldly. As the night grew darker, Zayan offered to walk her home. They moved through narrow streets lit only by flickering lamps. Aaliya noticed that no one else seemed to pay attention to him, as if he existed in a different layer of reality. He avoided crowds and never made eye contact with anyone but her. Though she sensed something unusual, she pushed the feeling aside, comforted by the warmth of his company. Over the next few days, Zayan appeared often at unexpected moments. The path to the market, near the riverbank, and even in her dreams. Each encounter left Aaliya feeling more enchanted. His knowledge of poetry, history, and music was remarkable, and he shared stories that felt timeless. Zayan never spoke about his past or where he came from. When asked, he would smile and change the subject. Aaliya did not mind the mystery. Instead, it made him all the more intriguing. As they grew closer, Aaliya's friends noticed a change in her. Rabia Khan, her childhood companion, grew concerned. She saw Aaliya's eyes glowing with an unusual light and noticed that she often seemed lost in thought, as if pulled by invisible threads. Rabia tried to warn her, sensing that Zayan was not what he seemed, but Aaliya's heart had already wrapped itself around the stranger. One evening, after a week of their meetings, Aaliya invited Zayan to her home. The moment he stepped inside, a strange chill filled the air. The candles flickered violently, and the shadows on the walls seemed to stretch and twist. Aaliya felt a mix of fear and fascination, but kept her doubts hidden. Zayan's calm smile reassured her, though she could not explain why her body trembled. That night, sleep was elusive. Aaliya's dreams were filled with swirling mist and whispering voices calling her name. She saw images of ancient deserts, flickering flames and figures moving between worlds. She woke up gasping, unable to shake the feeling that something beyond her understanding had entered her life. The line between reality and illusion blurred. Days passed, and the strange occurrences multiplied. Lights would flicker when Zayan was near, and unexplained cold drafts brushed against Aaliya's skin, even in warm rooms. She began noticing faint marks on her arms, delicate patterns that seemed to appear and disappear like shadows. When she tried to show them to Rabia, they vanished, leaving her unsure of what she had seen. Despite the growing unease, Aaliya's feelings for Zayan deepened. His attention was constant but elusive, as if he was always just beyond reach. She often found herself waiting by the window, hoping to catch a glimpse of him under the moonlight. The more she sought answers, the more questions emerged. One afternoon, while walking through the town square, Aaliya spotted Zayan talking quietly to an elderly man known for his knowledge of folklore and old legends. The man looked troubled, his eyes narrowing as he listened. Aaliya tried to approach, but hesitated when Zayan suddenly vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a faint scent of sandalwood and smoke. This event shattered the fragile sense of normalcy Aaliya had clung to. For the first time, she wondered if Zayan was truly human. The possibility terrified her, but she could not deny the bond they shared. She was caught between love and fear, between hope and a growing shadow that crept into her life. The chapter of innocence was ending, and a darker story was about to begin, one that would challenge everything Aaliya believed about the world and herself. Aaliya's life started to change in ways she could never have imagined. After that strange disappearance in the town square, a cloud of uncertainty hung over her days. Zayan remained as enigmatic as ever, but now the mystery felt heavier, almost suffocating. His visits became less frequent and more unpredictable. Sometimes he would appear suddenly in places where no one else seemed to notice him, as if he moved between two worlds. Aaliya struggled to make sense of it all, but found herself sinking deeper into the confusion. Rabia, her closest friend, grew increasingly worried. She saw the exhaustion creeping into Aaliya's eyes and noticed the subtle changes in her behavior. Aaliya was often distracted, her smile forced, and at times she would stare blankly, as if listening to voices no one else could hear. Rabia begged her to be cautious, to think carefully about the strange man who had entered her life. But Aaliya was unwilling to listen. Love, or something like it, had wrapped around her heart, blinding her to danger. The nights brought little relief. Aaliya's dreams were filled with vivid images that felt more real than memories. She saw Zayan's face, but it twisted and shifted into something terrifying, half human, half something else. She felt herself trapped in endless deserts, where shadows moved with malicious intent. Sometimes she woke to find her sheets soaked with sweat, heart pounding as if chased by unseen creatures. Despite the fear, she felt powerless to break free. Zayan's presence began affecting Aaliya's home as well. Lights flickered unpredictably, plunging rooms into darkness even during the day. Objects would shift places or vanish altogether. Once, while cooking, she felt a cold breath on her neck, though no one was behind her. The air sometimes thickened, heavy with an unexplainable tension that made her chest tighten. These strange events terrified Aaliya, but every time she tried to question Zayan about them, he would dismiss her concerns with a gentle smile and vague answers. One evening, Rabia decided to follow Zayan when he left Aaliya's house. She trailed him quietly through winding alleys until he reached the edge of town, near an abandoned house long whispered about in local legends. The building was dilapidated, with broken windows and a sagging roof covered in moss. As Zayan entered, a faint blue light flickered from inside, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. Rabia's heart pounded in fear and curiosity, but she stayed hidden, watching as Zayan moved with unnatural grace. Inside the house, Rabia saw strange symbols painted on the walls, glowing faintly in the blue light. The air smelled of burnt herbs and something metallic. She noticed Zayan's form blur and ripple like a reflection in disturbed water. For a brief moment, she glimpsed a shape that was not quite human. Tall, slender, with glowing eyes that pierced the darkness. Rabia fled, in terror, her mind racing with questions she did not want to face. Aaliya, meanwhile, felt her health slipping away. She was weak, pale, and often dizzy. Doctors found no physical illness to explain her condition, but the symptoms worsened with each passing day. Her friends whispered about curses and dark magic, but Aaliya tried to stay rational. She did not want to believe the supernatural stories. Yet, every time she looked at Zayan, she saw a flicker of something ancient and powerful lurking behind his calm gaze. The marks on her skin grew more distinct, intricate patterns that seemed to pulse faintly under her fingertips. She tried to hide them under long sleeves, but the fear that they might be signs of something terrible gnawed at her. When Rabia confronted her with the truth she had seen at the abandoned house, Aaliya's world began to crumble. She was forced to accept that Zayan might be what the old stories called a Jinn, a being from another realm, capable of deception and danger. The realization was both horrifying and heartbreaking. Aaliya struggled to understand how she had fallen for something so otherworldly. She questioned her own judgment, feeling betrayed by her heart. Yet, the bond between her and Zayan remained strong, pulling her back every time she tried to run. Zayan himself became more secretive and distant. He stopped visiting during daylight hours, appearing only at night when the shadows were thickest. His eyes held a strange sadness, as if he too was trapped in a fate he could not escape. Aaliya sensed that beneath his charm and mystery there was a hidden pain, something ancient and unspoken. One night, Aaliya awoke to find Zayan standing at the foot of her bed. The room was cold, and the air shimmered with a strange energy. She tried to reach out, but he vanished before her fingertips could touch him. The feeling of his presence lingered, a haunting reminder that the man she loved was not entirely of this world. As the days passed, the invisible walls between their two worlds grew thinner. Aaliya felt caught in a dangerous game she barely understood, a struggle between love and survival. The festival lights and joyous laughter of the past seemed distant now, replaced by shadows and whispers that only she could hear. The chapter of discovery had brought more questions than answers. Aaliya's journey was only beginning, and the path ahead promised secrets darker than she could imagine. News of Aaliya's strange condition and the mysterious man named Zayan reached the ears of Imran Siddiqui, a local investigator known for his interest in cases involving the unexplained. Imran had a reputation for investigating incidents that others dismissed as mere superstition or fantasy. He was a man who believed there was often more to a story than met the eye. When he heard about Aaliya's illness and the strange behavior surrounding Zayan, he became intrigued and decided to look deeper into the case. Imran visited Aaliya's home one afternoon. The moment he stepped inside, he noticed an unusual atmosphere. The air was heavy and still, with a faint scent of something smoky and unfamiliar. As he examined the rooms, his trained eyes caught details that would have gone unnoticed by others. Near the windows there were faint, almost invisible symbols drawn in dust and scratches on the woodwork. These symbols were not random, but seemed to belong to an ancient script. Imran recognized them from old folklore texts he had studied, signs often associated with protection against dark spirits or warnings of their presence. While inspecting the house, Imran also found traces of sulfur around the window frames and the entrance door. Sulfur was a substance frequently linked to supernatural activity, especially in tales involving Jinn. Its smell was pungent and difficult to ignore. This evidence confirmed his suspicions that something far beyond the natural was affecting Aaliya's life. Imran's curiosity pushed him to consult with Dr. Samira Haq, a psychologist with a unique specialty in folklore and paranormal psychology. Samira had spent years studying how belief in supernatural beings influenced the human mind and how these forces could manifest in real life. She believed that some legends were rooted in actual experiences, misunderstood or exaggerated over centuries. After listening to Imran's observations and learning about Aaliya's symptoms and encounters, Dr. Samira shared her insights about Jinn. She explained that in many cultures, Jinn were considered invisible beings made from smokeless fire. They were capable of shape-shifting and influencing humans by taking on various forms. Jinn could be benevolent or malevolent, but stories often warned of those who used their powers to deceive and harm humans, especially by forming close bonds to drain their energy. Dr. Samira suggested that Aaliya's condition might be the result of such a bond, with Zayan possibly being a Jinn feeding off her life force. The patterns appearing on Aaliya's skin, the cold drafts and the sudden changes in health were common signs reported in similar cases. Imran and Samira agreed that confronting this invisible force required a careful and knowledgeable approach. Imran returned to Aaliya's house to gather more information and speak with her in detail. She described the strange dreams, the cold touches, and the moments when Zayan seemed to vanish like smoke. Her voice trembled, but there was a determination behind her fear. She wanted to understand the truth and find a way to protect herself. To Imran's encouragement, Aaliya agreed to participate in a cautious investigation. They set up small cameras in her home to capture any unexplained activity. Over the following nights, the recordings showed unusual shadows moving quickly across rooms, strange flickering lights, and moments when the air seemed to ripple. Nothing solid appeared on the footage, but the presence was undeniable. Imran also researched the abandoned house where Rabia had seen Zayan enter. The place was infamous in local folklore as a site where dark entities were said to gather. Imran visited the house and found more of the mysterious symbols carved into the walls, some older and faded, others freshly drawn. There was a lingering chill and a feeling of unease that made him hurry away. Dr. Samira prepared rituals based on ancient texts meant to reveal and repel malevolent spirits. She explained that these rituals would need to be performed carefully and with great respect for the unseen forces involved. The goal was not to provoke, but to protect Aaliya and sever the harmful connection. As the days went by, Aaliya felt the invisible chains tighten around her. But with Imran and Samira's support, she also felt hope. For the first time, she was not alone in her struggle. The world she once thought simple and safe had revealed hidden dangers, but also allies willing to fight for her. The chapter ended with preparations for a confrontation unlike any Aaliya had imagined. The line between the human world and the supernatural was about to be tested, and the truth about Zayan's identity would finally come to light. Aaliya's world began to unravel the moment she truly understood who Zayan was. The truth hit her like a cold wave. He was not the man she had fallen for, but a Jinn, a being from another realm capable of shifting shapes and weaving illusions. This realization shattered her illusions and filled her heart with fear and confusion. For so long, she had believed in the warmth of his presence, the softness in his eyes, and the promises unspoken between them. Now, everything seemed like a carefully crafted trap, designed to pull her into a dark and dangerous world. Zayan's true nature was unlike anything Aaliya had ever imagined. The stories she had heard as a child, tales of Jinn lurking in shadows and playing tricks on humans, suddenly felt frighteningly real. She remembered the ancient symbols Imran had found in her home, the faint marks on her skin that pulsed faintly in the night, and the cold draughts that whispered of invisible dangers. It was clear that Zayan had been feeding off her life force, draining her strength to bind her to him forever. Aaliya struggled with a whirlwind of emotions, love mixed with betrayal, hope tangled with despair. She wanted to run, to escape the invisible chains tightening around her, but a part of her remained trapped by the bond they had forged. It was a bond born not from kindness, but from the Jinn's dark hunger. The realization that she had been a victim of supernatural deception was both painful and isolating. Despite her fear, Aaliya refused to give in. The determination to survive burned fiercely within her. With the support of Imran and Dr. Samira Haq, she prepared to face the invisible enemy. They gathered ancient texts, talismans, and herbs, tools believed to repel Jinn and break their hold on humans. Samira explained that Jinn were powerful beings, but vulnerable to certain rituals that could expose their true form and weaken their influence. The night of confrontation arrived with a heavy stillness in the air. Aaliya's heart pounded as she stepped into the abandoned house where Zayan often disappeared. The place was dark and cold, shadows crawling along cracked walls, covered in fading symbols. The blue glow that Rabia had seen before flickered faintly, casting eerie shapes that seemed to move and twist. As the ritual began, chants filled the air, ancient words spoken with reverence and caution. Candles burned with a strange flickering light, and the scent of burning herbs mingled with the cool night air. Aaliya stood in the centre of the circle drawn on the floor, feeling a mix of fear and strength. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed. The shadows deepened, and a cold wind swept through the room. From the darkness, Zayan appeared, but no longer as the handsome man she had known. His form shifted, revealing a figure both terrifying and mesmerizing. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and his shape flickered between solid and smoke-like. His voice, once soft and soothing, now echoed with a hollow, otherworldly tone. The Jinn fought fiercely against the ritual. Invisible forces pushed against Aaliya, and she felt as if invisible hands were trying to pull her into the shadows. But she stood firm, her will strengthened by the support of her friends and the knowledge that her life depended on this moment. Imran and Samira continued the chants, moving with practiced precision. The symbols on the walls and floor seemed to come alive, glowing brighter as the ritual reached its peak. The Jinn's form began to weaken, the smoke-like figure unraveling and shrinking. With a final burst of energy, the dark presence was forced to retreat, disappearing into the night with a howl that sent chills down everyone's spine. Aaliya collapsed to the floor, exhausted but free. The invisible chains that had bound her loosened, and the oppressive weight in the room lifted. For the first time in weeks, she felt the lightness of hope and the possibility of healing. In the days that followed, Aaliya slowly regained her strength. The marks on her skin faded, and the strange occurrences in her home ceased. Though she was safe, the experience left deep scars on her mind and soul. The love she had felt for Zayan was now forever tinged with fear and sorrow. She realized that some dangers hide behind the most charming faces, and not every story ends happily. Aaliya chose to share her story as a warning to others, hoping that no one else would fall prey to such a dark deception. Her journey from innocence to terror, and finally to survival, became a powerful testament to the strength of the human spirit in the face of the unknown. The town slowly returned to normal, but the legend of the Jinn Prince lingered in whispers and shadows. It was a chilling reminder that not all love is what it seems, and sometimes the greatest danger lies in the illusions we choose to believe. After the terrifying confrontation in the abandoned house, Aaliya's life seemed to return to a fragile normalcy, but the echoes of what she had endured continued to haunt her. The experience had left a deep imprint on her soul, a mixture of relief, sorrow, and a new, uneasy awareness of the invisible forces around her. Though the Jinn, Zayan, had been driven away, the shadow of his presence remained, reminding her that some wounds were not easily healed. Aaliya found herself looking at the world differently. The familiar streets, the bustling markets, and even her own home felt altered, as if a thin veil had been lifted to reveal hidden layers beneath the surface. She became more cautious, more aware of the subtle signs of danger. Strange noises, sudden chills, and fleeting shadows made her heart race, even when she was alone. She knew that the world was filled with mysteries beyond human understanding. Mysteries she had never imagined until now. Her friends, especially Rabia, stood by her side with unwavering support. Rabia's discovery of Zayan's true nature had been the first warning, and her loyalty helped Aaliya stay grounded when fear threatened to overwhelm her. Together, they talked often about the strange events, piecing together clues from folklore, ancient texts, and the experiences they had lived through. The more they learned, the more they understood how powerful and complex the realm of Jinn truly was. Imran Siddiqui and Dr. Samira Haq remained involved as well, guiding Aaliya through the difficult process of healing and protection. Imran helped to secure her home with protective symbols and talismans, while Samira offered psychological support to mend the mental scars left by Zayan's influence. Their combined efforts created a shield around Aaliya, not just against supernatural threats, but also against the loneliness and despair that often follow trauma. Despite these measures, Aaliya sometimes felt the lingering pull of Zayan's presence. It was never strong enough to harm her again, but faint and fleeting, a whisper in the dark, a glimpse of shadow in the corner of her eye. She learned to live with these reminders, understanding that some spirits, once connected, never disappear completely. Instead, she focused on reclaiming her life, rebuilding trust in herself, and finding joy in the small moments she had almost lost. One day, while walking through the town market, Aaliya noticed an elderly woman watching her closely. The woman's eyes held a knowing look, as if she understood more than anyone else. Later, the woman approached and handed Aaliya a small worn book bound in faded leather. Inside were writings and symbols related to Jinn, stories, warnings, and rituals passed down through generations. The woman explained that the knowledge was a gift, meant to protect those who had encountered the unseen. This unexpected gift sparked a new chapter in Aaliya's life. She began to study the book, learning not only about dangers, but also about the nature of Jinn as complex beings capable of good and evil. She realized that not all Jinn were like Zayan, and that understanding was the key to protection and peace. Her fear slowly transformed into respect for the unknown, and her story became a bridge between worlds. Aaliya's experience soon became a local legend, shared quietly among neighbors and travelers. Some dismissed it as fantasy, others listened with wide eyes, and a few sought her out for advice. She never sought fame or attention. Her goal was simple: to warn and help others avoid the trap she had fallen into. Her journey was a reminder that the world was full of unseen forces, and sometimes the greatest courage was in facing the truth. The town, once shadowed by fear, gradually found balance again. Life went on with its daily rhythms. But the story of the girl who found her Prince Charming, a prince who was actually a Jinn, remained etched in memory. It was a tale of love and deception, danger and survival, and the thin line that separates the visible from the invisible. Aaliya often reflected on how much she had changed. She was no longer the naive girl who had believed in a fairy tale love. Instead, she had become a woman shaped by darkness and light, strengthened by trials few could imagine. Her life was a testament to resilience and the power of knowledge to break the chains of fear. In the quiet moments before sleep, when the world was still and shadows lengthened, Aaliya whispered a prayer for protection, not just for herself, but for all who might one day cross paths with the unknown. The past was behind her, but the lessons remained alive, guiding her steps into the future. Her story was more than a warning. It was a call to awareness, a reminder that sometimes the most charming faces hide the deepest secrets. And in those secrets, both danger and hope reside, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to look beyond the veil.